Welcome to Wild Conversations. I'm George Buman with a Yellowstone Life, and this week's installment is on April, the return of life to Yellowstone. Life's always been here, but it is like the tip of the iceberg for the renewal of this place in spring. And considering none of us, even the locals, can access the park because of the closures related to COVID-19, what we wanted to do is kind of give you a painted mental picture of what it is like to be here right now, even if you can't, and to perhaps draw some parallels between the things that are happening at your house. So I'm sure a lot of you are probably in places where spring has already sprung. You've got the birds, the amphibians choruses, the daffodils coming up. But in Yellowstone, the arrival of spring is a slow process, and it's a stutter step process. In the background here, you may usually see Electric Peak. Today, it's covered up in snow that you see falling around me. We're at about 6,000 feet, but snow is a regular part of Yellowstone. Even on into summer, it can snow on the summer solstice. So, but it is arriving, and it's slow, and it's this beautiful living wave that comes both in the visual context, in an olfactory context. The smell of spring, you start to smell the earth anew, and the breaking buds of willows and cottonwoods, that sweet, fragrant smell lets you know that the place is coming back to life. So animals are staging, animals are wanting to come back into this place because it is the breeding site, it is the nesting site for so many species. It is the place where they have their young, and the bounty of the mountains is really the place they do it. And so they're coming from all over. Those animals that are migrating in are Yellowstone canary, the western tanager, is coming all the way back from Central America, Costa Rica type places. Bald eagles, golden eagles, they're all returning on migration. The ospreys will become part of our landscape here again. And so if you're out in a place like Blacktail Ponds, you may just see the slightest hint of green coming up through that gray earth that's exposed, and the smattered snow that's out there like a grand tonalist painting. Lamar Valley and places that are slightly higher in elevation are still mostly white. And the animals that have toughed out the winter there, they're still sticking around. But more and more they're becoming joined by and in the company of all these returning species, whether they're migrators or whether they're hibernators that are just coming out. Like the grizzly bears have been out for a few weeks now. So, for instance, the males who go into the den last, the big adult males, they come out first. And so they're accessing the winter-killed animals and carcasses that were left over or in the process of being brought down by the wolves. They'll happily take those over. And so as spring comes into the mountains, not only the bears coming out of the hibernation state, but also things like marmots. And although we haven't seen Uinta ground squirrels yet, or bats, they are popping out here pretty darn soon. You see them changing over their coats. For those animals that stay, bison, deer, pronghorn, elk, their winter coats have become bleached through the UV exposure from the sun against that snowy backdrop all winter long. It'll actually lighten the quality of their coat compared to the early winter, fresh new winter coat that they've grown. And so I've had people ask, what kind of elk are the white ones? And they aren't white elk, so to speak. They are just bleached ones, especially the bulls. Males tend to have lighter coats at this time of year than females, and so they stick out. But we're starting to see clumps of hair in and around the landscape, even around our house right here, where they're starting to drop that winter coat in preparation for growing anew. Now, don't think that because spring is here, all is well. And it's one of the very tenuous points of the year. It's a tipping point, really. And you might think because we're starting to see green grass come up out of the ground in this really bedraggled gray earth, that the deer and the elk and the other herbivores are set. They're done. They're good to go for the rest of the year now. But they have a few weeks to go yet. In fact, most of the animals, a great number, I should say, of the animals that die winter kill actually die at green up. And the reason is their digestive systems are not adapted for this type of food right now. They've been eating really rough, tough forage, and their gut bacteria, although there's protozoans and fungi and things in there that help with their digestion, it's mainly bacteria. And those bacteria have adapted themselves to eating really high fiber, low nutrient food. It's low in water content, and it's really hard stuff to digest. Well, when the first greenery starts popping up, they obviously want to eat it, but their bodies, if they eat too much of it, can't handle it. And it will go right through them. They won't get any nutrients out of it, and it may just toxify their body by the virtue of the compounds that those microbes then produce in the presence of that high fiber or high nutrient, high water content, low fiber food. So right in the immediate area around us right here, right now, our house where we typically walk on a regular basis, we know of 6 deer that perished this year, mostly fawns, as you'd expect, and 1 elk perished from winter kill. And it wasn't a really bad winter as far as snowfall, but it was difficult in this sense that what snow was there was going through these warming spells, and it would warm a bit and melt down and then freeze solid like concrete. And so these animals were having a really hard time getting through to what food was there because of those conditions. So not to bring it down to too much of a downer of a situation, but it is a dangerous time of year. If you're a migrator, you're coming back into an atmosphere where there's a lot of predatory animals that are also returning. Friends were watching bluebirds the other day and saw a northern harrier catch 1 or 2 of them. The great horned owls have had their chicks, and their chicks will be of the age, as a lot of these migrators come back, to eat them, whether it's rabbits coming out or neotropical migrants flying in. But a lot of these animals, as this living wave approaches Yellowstone, are staging too. They are all just coming right back to join those who've been here. Sandhill cranes have been down the valley toward Livingston for weeks. And in other places you see them kind of entering the region but not going right into the park because there's nothing for them or very little for them. You're seeing mostly males come back as far as birds because they're setting up territories. Things like the robins I'm hearing right now, and the bluebirds, and the red-winged blackbirds with those beautiful red and yellow epaulets on their wings. They're coming back in flocks of males to enter the region. They've got safety in numbers, but then they can start to disperse and pick out their territories for breeding. And so that's where you hear a lot of the spring songs starting to kick in. And if you're at a place like Blacktail Ponds, or even right here, you may hear the black-capped chickadee giving its spring song. You might even, a friend just heard the first osprey the other day. So that's re-entering our soundscape. Visually, though they aren't making noise, butterflies. I saw the first butterfly the other day down along the Yellowstone River. It was a morning cloak, and these butterflies actually come out in the fall and overwinter by way of some antifreeze that they pump into their body. So all of these animals that are now making this resurgence into the park are doing so from all these different types of strategies. And if you can make it through the migration here, if you can make it through the difficult transition to better food and warmer temperatures, you just might see the real joy of spring that we really get a kick out of. It's like the tip of the iceberg right now. Even though it's snowing and April is likely to be snowed upon as it is to be shone upon by the sunshine, it's a time we really look forward to. It's the little things that pop out to us that we really take joy in, like the spring beauties, the first spring beauty. We saw the first buttercups the other day, and Lewisia, the bitterroot flower. And although you don't see the flower quite this early, you do see the leaves that come out of the ground like this beautiful finely legged sea star of this rich dark green color. And that's what it's all about. You know, each new bird that pops up, oh, I saw such and such. And you all have these things going on in your areas too. We're just a little more behind the curve because of our elevation. So if a lot of these animals make it through, this is the time where they start having young, or are preparing to. I hear northern flickers right above me right now that are going through their mating ritual. There's two birds, and they do this beautiful thing around the tree limbs as they court. But we start to see some of the very first young among mammals appear too. Keep in mind, grizzly bears and black bears were born in the dens. We won't usually see them for another few weeks, like into maybe, let's say mid-May is more common, the second week of May. But bison calves, the earliest date I have an observation of a bison calf from is April 1st, April Fool's Day. So they can be showing up any time now. We haven't seen our first. A few others have noted that they may have seen indications, a female that has given birth, but keep looking for those calves because they're out there, those little red dogs. I watched one born once, and at 12 minutes it made its first attempt to stand and fell over, but by 18 minutes, 17, 18 minutes, it was on its feet and moving. Quite a feat. There's a rumor of an elk calf or something, maybe a bison born in Gardner here just the other day. I'm a little dubious of that one, but it's possible. Everything's variable in nature, so it could be. Elk generally don't start making the scene until about the third week of May. Same with pronghorn, similar with mule deer and white-tailed deer. So even though I'm getting snowed on now, I was out with a friend for a hike up over 9,000 feet, and we had 4 to 6 feet of snow on the ground. We were breaking through even on snowshoes up to our knees or deeper. There's a lot of snow yet to come out of the mountains, but that's going to be feeding the green wave and the living wave of plants and animals that are going to make this place a lot more interesting here in a real short period of time. It's been a pleasure talking with you today. Comment down below, subscribe if you're tuning in via YouTube, and like us if you're on Facebook. And please do log on to ayellowstonelife.com and get the free download, the 5 things you can do right now to tune into animal language. That'll help you tune into a lot more of the things that are happening in your neck of the woods and prepare you for when the park opens and we can all get back into Yellowstone to see these things in person, live, and in front of us. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm George Buman with the Yellowstone Life. Have a great day, and tune in next week. Same time, same channel, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for more wild conversations. Thanks.